Good morning, and welcome to the Freeman-Kennedy School's Memorial Day Assembly. We are privileged to host special guests this morning. Mr. Benjamin McCarty and his wife Patty from the American Legion. Ms. Diane Nielsen, the Executive Director of the Mass Fallen Heroes Association. Ms. Nancy Smith, mother to Adam and Colin Kennedy, and grandmother to Lamb Kennedy, Layla, and Owen Kennedy. And Mr. Colin Kennedy, brother to Adam Kennedy, and father to Lamb, Layla, and Owen Kennedy. Thank you all for coming. We'd like to begin our assembly as we start our school day by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, Hadley and Hallie Francis from Mrs. Tully's class, and Belize Dumay and Kaya Budin from Miss Moore's class will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We all please stand and face the flag on the wall. Quietly, boys and girls. Standing for the playing of our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, by the advanced band. Please remain standing. Today, as a school family, to honor the memory of the men and women and families who have made the ultimate sacrifice while in service to our military. As many of you know, our school name is named after a very special person who made the ultimate sacrifice for us. Sergeant Adam Kennedy attended the Freeman Centennial Schools here in Norfolk, Massachusetts, as a student. After graduating from college, Adam went into training for the United States Army. During his training, Adam received honors in physical fitness and marksmanship. He had many attributes during his time in the Army. Adam exemplified honor, courage, determination, and leadership skills while serving in the Army. Unfortunately, Adam was killed on April 8, 2007. Sergeant Adam Kennedy's picture and uniform is displayed on the wall of our school right outside the gymnasium here. The next time you walk by Adam, pause to say thank you for the sacrifice he made in order for us to live free in our country. I'd now like to call upon Mrs. Diane Nielsen, the Director of the Families of the Fallen Home Base, to say a few words.
Morning, everybody. My name is Diane Nealon, and I am the director of the Families of the Fallen program at Home Base. I'd like to thank Principal Lisa Alfin-Hickey and Vice Principal Adam Tarzik for inviting me here today to talk with you about Memorial Day. I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. McCarty of the Legion for sharing his remarks shortly, and special gratitude to Nancy, Colin, Layla, Liam, and Owen for being with us today. I'm so glad you can see this beautiful community of support. So as many of you know, Memorial Day in the United States honors the memory of our soldiers who died in the nation's war, from the Revolutionary Wars to the present. And I want to point out that we are so fortunate to live in a community and in a country with a large population of helpers, where brave people sign up for dangerous jobs like military service to keep us all safe. This requires courage and sacrifice, and sometimes it can cost someone their life. These brave helpers are our ancestors, our family members, our neighbors, and our friends. So as you know, the Memorial Day holiday remembering our military helpers falls on the last Monday in May. On this day, many Americans will attend parades, remembrance services, and other social events. People will also decorate soldiers' graves with flowers and with flags. In a minute, I'm going to ask each of you to do a little bit more, but first, let me explain to you why. I was asked to speak here today because I work at a very special place called Home Base. It's a Mass General Hospital clinic where veterans, service members, and their families can get some mental health care and some physical health care. My job is to work with military families whose brave soldiers and service members aren't here with us anymore. They died while serving our country. We call these families, families of the fallen, like the Kennedy family here with us today. Losing someone you love, as some of you may know, is really hard, and grief can be a bit overwhelming at times, especially around holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and other remembrances. So, do you know what helps these family members? Knowing that their loved ones will be remembered, that their military service and sacrifice will not be forgotten. So here, today, let's point out a few ways we do that. Can anybody here think of a few examples around Norfolk where we remember and honor our fallen military service members? I'll give you a second to think. Go ahead, honey. Nice and loud. Wonderful. She said, we can ask our parents and we can thank military servicemen and women. It's beautiful. Thank you. Go ahead, sweetie. Yeah, she says, we can put flags on military gravestones. It's wonderful. Go ahead. We can ask our parents to look into local organizations to help those organizations that work with the military. Is that what I heard? Go ahead, sweetie. We can research a little bit more about people who didn't make it back. You guys are amazing. I'll take a couple more and then I want to point out some other ways. Go ahead. We can look at the gravestone in front of the school. Go ahead. Oh, so in her family looks back and to see who served in their family. They make special cards. And you said it was your grandfather? Is that right? Her great-grandfather. It's wonderful. So they put some cards on his gravestone. Of course. Please. And microphone.
My uncle and my dad, because they both served in the military, and my uncle, he got sacrificed.
Honey, and we're so glad you could be here with us today, so you can see that it's really important for families to remember their loved ones. And you've all done a wonderful job explaining how you remember in your community. I also know that in Norfolk, you have a beautiful field of flags that goes up around Memorial Day and Veterans Day. The school, as we talked about, is named after Sergeant Adam Kennedy. And it's important to name buildings and roads and bridges after our fallen. Every time you go by one of those buildings, you remember that soldier's name. Let me share a couple of other examples from Boston. So on Wednesday, staff from home base and about 600 volunteers gathered on historic Boston Common. We planted 37,376 small American flags into the ground at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Every single one of those flags was to remember all of the brave servicemen and women from the Commonwealth who died while serving our country from the Revolutionary War until the present. Yesterday, we gathered at that flag garden with about 80 family members of the fallen, and we read the names of 404 servicemen and women who died as a result of our most recent wars from September 11th to the present. So why do we do this? So some say, as long as you keep a memory or a name alive, the person is always with you in your hearts. So here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. And you're all, I think some of you are already doing this. So go home, ask your family, do we have any relatives that served our country? Are they one of the 37,376 men and women from Massachusetts who died serving our country since the Revolutionary War? Learn a little bit about them. Be curious. Ask for the photos. Ask for the stories. Learn, when did they serve? Why did they serve? And most importantly, ask for their name. On Monday, think of these brave soldiers, servicemen, and women. And if you can, say their name, plant a flag, plant a flower, plant a few seeds in their memory. And know that your special act of remembrance will go a long way for comforting some very special people and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane, for coming and sharing your thoughts today. The Freeman-Kennedy Chorus, under the direction of Mrs. Musial, will now sing A Time to Remember by John Jacobson and Rollo DeWorth. Lucille and the chorus for a beautiful job. I'd now like to turn our attention to our 4th grade students who are sitting right here to my left in the front row. They are going to recite a poem titled Our Memories by Lenore Hetrick.
By Lenore Hetrick. If we remember those who are gone, then they live again. They are here once more, they smile and speak, just as the living men. So let us give our thoughts to the grave upon this Memorial Day. In spiritual fellowship, let us speak and listen to what they say. For a soldier who died for his country must know much that he could tell. And if we caught the message, it might serve us often well. So in our memories, let the dead linger often long. Recollections of that kind live and are like a springtime song.
Thank you, 4th grade students. Awesome job. I now would like to call upon Mr. Benjamin McCarty from the American Legion Post 335 to say a few words.
Good morning. Before I get started, I would like to say a few words of happiness and kindness for Mr. Foraker, because about 20 years ago, my son Thomas wanted to play music. I have no musical talent. Mr. Foraker, with his great program, has been able to instill a love of the saxophone for over 20 years in my son. And just last year, my son asked that we send him his saxophone so he could play it, and why he had breaks while serving in the Army. So thank you, Mr. Foraker, for all you do. Now, Memorial Day is a time we remember and honor those who have died to preserve our country's freedom and defend liberty throughout the world. In the United States, we have had over 1 million men and women die serving in wars and missions since the American Revolution. As proud Americans, we should remember that our freedom is not free. It is only possible because heroes, some from our own families or neighborhoods, such as that Sergeant Adam Kennedy, have paid a high price, the ultimate sacrifice. It's that price which is why we have ceremonies like this in towns across this great country, and we enjoy our freedoms and way of life. And we need to always remember those who sacrificed their lives for others. Now, the first Memorial Day was not called Memorial Day, but was Decoration Day, and started in 1868 when a veterans group called the Grand Army of the Republic proclaimed that May 30th should be observed nationwide to honor fallen victims, veterans of the Civil War. The name Memorial Day was not commonly used until after World War II, when in a long war against evil and tyranny, the United States lost over 400,000 American service members. Many of these men and women rest in graves at Normandy American Cemetery in France. Others found peace at Arlington National Cemetery or in their hometown burial places. In Normandy American Cemetery, there are over 9,000 are buried, including 33 sets of brothers and one father and one son. I would like to tell you a little bit about the father and son. The father was Colonel Ollie Reed, and he was serving in France. His son was Lieutenant Ollie Reed Jr., and he was in Italy. Both died in July 1944. On July 6th, Lieutenant Ollie Reed died in Italy, and on July 30th, the father died in France. On August 4th, Mrs. Mildred Reed received a notice that no parent or family member or loved one ever wants to receive. She received a telegram that was delivered by the postman. And in that postman, the telegram said, "We regret to inform you that your son has died in the service of the country." That alone is a shock for anyone. 45 minutes later, another telegram arrived. There was some confusion. Why another telegram? Was the first one a mistake? We don't know, but here's the telegram. She opened the second one, and she found out she lost another family member. Her husband had died. 45 minutes apart, she received those notices. Mrs. Reed decided that she would want them to be buried together. And so instead of having them come back to the United States, she requested they be buried next to each other in France, where they had worked to save the country in freedom. Now, for some veterans, Memorial Day is a bittersweet day, as also for the family members, because they remember the loss of loved ones. And they are very sad. And some may cry, that is fine. The loss of the loved ones and heroes does hurt. However, these heroes have all made a difference in their lives. And we remember those and thank them for that. One other story, short story, is that a man who was 102 years old, named Lou Condor, died on April 1st of this year. Lou Condor was the last surviving member of the attack of the USS Arizona that happened in World War II on December 7th, 1941. There is now a memorial in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, for that ship. But Lou said something a couple years ago at a Pearl Harbor Day that we all need to recognize and remember. Lou said, "We are not the heroes. While you may be honoring us here on Pearl Harbor Day, the survivors, we are not the heroes. The 1,177 men who went down with the ship are the heroes. You have to remember, we got to go home. We got to get married, raise children and grandchildren, and we've lived a good life. Those who didn't get to do that should be called the heroes." So today, we remember Lou's message. And you look around, and you are able to go to school here at Freeman-Kennedy School. You are able to play with your friends. You are able to love your families and live in this great town of Norfolk and our great nation because of the sacrifices made by the young men and women who never came home. We must always remember them. May they all rest in peace. Thank you.
Mr. McCarty, for your words. I'd now like to have everyone look at the large screen. Our 5th grade students recorded "The Wall" by Eve Bunting with Mrs. Tusseri.
The Wall by Eve Bunting, illustrated by Ronald Himmler. This is the wall, my grandfather's wall. On it are the names of those killed in the war long ago. Where is Grandpa's name, I ask? We have to find it, Dad says. He and I have come a long way for this, and we walk slowly, searching. The wall is black and shiny as a mirror. In it, I can see Dad and me. I can see the gray trees behind us and the dark flying clouds. A woman as old as my grandmother is hugging a man old as my grandpa would be. They're both crying. Shh, he whispers, shh. A man in a wheelchair stares at the names. He doesn't have legs. I'm looking, and he sees me looking and smiles. Hi, son. Hi. His hat is a soft squash green, and there are medals on it. His pant legs are folded back, and his shirt is a soldier shirt.
Flowers and other things have been laid against the wall. There are little flags and old teddy bear and letters, weighted with stones so they won't blow away. Someone has left a rose with a droopy head. Have you found Grandpa yet, I asked. No, Dad said. There are so many names. They are listed under the years when they were killed. I found 1967. That's when my grandpa died. Dad runs his fingers along the rows of print. And I do too. The letters march side by side, like those of soldiers. They're nice and even. It's better printing than I can do. The wall is worn.
Dad is searching and searching. Albert A. Jensen, Charles Bernanski, George Munoz, he mutters. His fingers stop moving. Here he is. My grandpa, I ask. Dad nods. Your grandpa. His voice blurs. My dad. He was just my age when he was killed. Dad rubs the name, rubbing and rubbing as if he wants to wipe it away. Maybe he just wants to remember the way it feels. He lifts me up so I can touch it too. We've brought paper. Dad puts it over the letters and rubs on it with a pencil so the paper goes dark and the letters show up white. You've got parts of other guys' names on there too, I tell him. Dad looks at the paper. Your grandpa won't mind. They were probably friends of his anyway, I say. Dad nods. Maybe so. A man and a boy walk past. Can we go to the river now, Grandpa? The boy asked. Yes. The man takes the boy's hand. Button your jacket, it's cold. My dad stands very still with his head bent. A bunch of big girls in school uniforms come down the path, their teachers with them. They're all carrying more of those little flags. Is this wall for the dead soldiers, Miss Gerber? One of the masked Shinola boys. The names are the names of the dead, but the wall is for all of us, the teacher says. They made a lot of noise and asked a lot of questions, and all the time Dad just stands there with his head bowed, and I stand beside him. The girls stick their flags in the dirt in front of the wall and leave. Then it's quiet again. Dad folds the paper that has Grandpa's name on it and puts it in his wallet. He slides out a picture of me, one of the yucky ones they took in school. While I'm making me wear a tie, Dad puts the picture on the grass below Grandpa's name. It blows away. I get it and put it back, and pile some little stones on top. My face smiles up at me from under the stones. Grandpa won't know who I am, I tell Dad. I think he will, Dad says. I move closer to him. It's sad here. He puts a hand on my shoulder. I know, but it's a place of honor. I'm proud that your grandfather's name is on this wall. I am too. I am. But I'd rather have my grandpa here, taking me to the river, telling me to button my jacket because it's cold. I'd rather have him here.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial honors the men and women of the armed forces of the United States who served in the Vietnam War. On it are listed the names of those who gave their lives and those missing in action. The memorial is located in Washington, D.C. On a wall, black wall, are more than 58,000 names.
To all of fifth grade students who narrated that beautiful story for us. The advanced band, under the direction of Mr. Foraker, will now play The March of the Paratroopers by Mark Williams. awesome job. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Tarsick for closing remarks today.
Morning, everyone. I love the red, white, and blue. You guys look great on, Tomorrow we're going to have our Celtics green on, right? Celtics in 5. Gentlemen's suite. But we would love to thank everyone who participated in the Memorial Day Assembly. A special thanks to our invited guests, the FK staff and students, Mr. Foraker and the advanced band, Mrs. Duzio and the chorus, our technology team, Raphael Sardi and Robin Ducheri, Allie Hamilton and Lois Ebenheimer for working behind the scenes on inviting guests and creating the program, Norfolk Cable for filming today's assembly, Lucas Frazier for doing the setup of all the risers and chairs. Also, what a fantastic job, the band and chorus going back and forth. Nice job. Very talented. Lots of talent here at Freeman-Kennedy. It does take a village to make a school-wide assembly come together, and we appreciate everyone's efforts. We are going to end today's assembly like we ended the Veterans Day Assembly with the performance of the military honor song, Taps. As you remember, Taps is a song intended to honor fallen military members. Unlike other musical performances, we do not clap at its conclusion. When the song finishes, our assembly will also end, and students should exit the gym quietly and with your classroom teacher back to your classes. We did a fantastic job on Veterans Day, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to kind of quietly walk on out to show our respect for our fallen troops. Thank you for your attention and participation this morning. Taps will now be played by Lily Nervoso. I would ask you to all stand and place your hand over your heart during this playing. Thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful and safe Memorial Day weekend.